Epilepsy is the fourth most common neurological disorder in the world. It occurs when surges of electrical activity in the brain cause recurring seizures. And around 50 million people worldwide have epilepsy, making it one of the most common prevalent neurological diseases globally. So, did you know that 1 in 26 people will develop epilepsy within their lifetime? Men have a slightly higher risk, 1 in 21, compared to women at 1 in every 28. Nearly 80% of those with epilepsy live in low and middle income countries where access to treatment can be particularly challenging. On this channel, we've often discussed the stigma surrounding mental health. Unfortunately, people with epilepsy and their families also face widespread discrimination. However, timely access to accurate information and medical care can transform lives. Today, we're sharing the story of Dr. Amy Shah, a South Asian professional who has navigated epilepsy since childhood. Recently, in her 40s, Dr. Shah underwent a life-changing procedure where doctors carefully observed her seizures to adjust her medication. In this video, Dr. Shah talks us through her journey from being an 8-year-old with her first diagnosis to her experiences as a mother and professional. Along the way, she reflects on the challenges, breakthroughs, and lessons she's learned in reframing her life with epilepsy.
I was first diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 8. I had one seizure. Luckily, I was sleeping next to my mom, called 911, and saw the neurologist, and we lived in a small town, so that was like a drive of an hour and a half. And I got put on medication, and it worked. It was like one medication. I was living a normal life. I probably had maybe 2 seizures through a year, and they always happened consistently at night, which means we were always at home in a safe environment. It was nothing that I had to tell anyone about because it didn't affect, at that point, my day-to-day, anything during the day. It didn't affect my school. There were no accommodations needed for anything. Went to college, knew I wanted to go to dental school, so it was pre-dental. I graduated with a psychology major and a biology minor. Through college, I also didn't tell a lot of my friends because it didn't affect my lifestyle. I can remember going out and taking my medication in a bathroom stall or in a corner, and I'd just go on with the rest of the evening or the rest of the night. And medication was only taken once a day. No big deal. No one had to know. I didn't need a caretaker. I didn't need, a few of my close friends knew just in case something happened that what to do and how to react to the situation. And luckily and fortunately, that never happened to where I was in a public space and it had to be addressed or someone else had to come in and help. Fast forward to when we were planning our child with my husband, the medication I was on was highly known to cause birth defects. So having a family and considering a family was something we had to preemptively plan, saying, okay, we're on this medication. We need to figure out something else before we choose to have a child. And that's kind of when my first run-in with epilepsy became kind of prominent and something I really had to face. So I found a neurologist who was great at the time, but the transition wasn't smooth. And still at this point, no one knew that I'd quit working. I didn't drive for 4 months. I kind of just isolated and stayed to myself. I had all the side effects, didn't go anywhere, and I kind of dealt with it alone with my husband. One of the things I learned during that moment was I had a neurologist who was giving me the best information that he knew. Not talking about it at that point actually prevents you from getting more information. So there was a day I was out with someone who was also a neurologist who specializes in sleep. And I opened up to her about it. I'm like, I'm going through a hard time. This is what's going on. She referred me to another neurologist who specializes in women's health. And had I not spoken about that in retrospect, had I not opened up and told her, I would never have been introduced to my current neurologist, who has been fantastic. And I've been with her through the birth of my first child, my second child, and currently now. So it's been 15 years. So one thing I've learned is when you talk about it, you can actually learn and get information, and people mean well and they're out to help you. And if I hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have had access to an amazing neurologist who was meant for my needs. And I think that's why I woke up one day and I was just like, what is going on? Like, what has been working for 25, 30, 35 years is not anymore. And so I'm reaching out to her, and it's really hard to navigate. I myself treat patients, and so I understand the field a little bit, and we're treating something that no one really knows much about. So I've had, in the last 6 months, it just really all of a sudden was like, okay, this medication isn't working. So we added another one, we added another one, we added another one. And it's been in such a short amount of time. And they've been working to some extent, to the extent that I still drive, I still manage my practice, I still am able to function, but it can be better. I still have days where I'm like taking all these medications, I have the side effects, and I'm like, I could live like this, but then there's that, what if it can be better, right? And so my doctor, who I've been with for this many years, has always been telling me, we're treating something we haven't seen, because all the tests that I've had up until now have always been normal. EKGs, MRIs, blood results, everything has been normal, because you can't actively see what's going on until it's actively happening. And no one has been able to do that, obviously, because it happens in my sleep and we're not in a setting. So we're going to bite the bullet now, because it's been 7 months and I feel like, yes, I can do this, but what if I don't have to? And what if something good comes out of this? So I'm going in on Monday and I'm choosing to do this. I've taken the week off. My husband's taking the week off, and we're going to go in and they're going to slowly take me off my medications, because we're going in wanting to have a seizure. And I don't know anyone who wants to go in knowing that their body's about to do something that they have no control over. And in my situation, I don't lose consciousness. So I'm aware during the entire process. I've had my ups and downs with this, and I had the day and I was like, you know what? I just need to sit with myself. And I sat and I just cried. I was like, it was just like this. I am going to allow myself to be scared to do this. And I did. So what we did was an electroencephalogram, which is an EEG. And that's where they put the electrodes on to your brain in many different ways. And I remember them coming in and starting with a number of leads, and then they added more, because they were like, okay, let's make sure we incorporate all of the areas of the brain if we're able to capture any information. What they found was that it's coming from in between my frontal and parietal lobe on the left side, because my symptoms are on the right. It was confirmed. And they found the focal point, and they found that it spreads in the exact areas that the loss of muscle control spreads into my body. And so there was a direct correlation between what my verbal explanations were prior to that, what physically presented that night. And they were able to see and narrow down in the brain where the trigger is and where it's starting from, which is consistent in my case every single time for every episode. And they were able to see how that spreads, where that spreads. And so collecting all that data for them was very, very important. I think what resulted personally was a true testament to just surrendering. And it may sound absurd, but I think this has changed the way I kind of see everything in life in moving forward. It's made me a little more empathetic of, this is an invisible illness. This is not something that anyone can see or look at me or ever have an idea. And that spreads across the board with anybody I come in contact with. And it's made me more aware of that. Like, you never really know what anyone is going through when you don't know what you don't know. And statistically, there's 1 in 26 people that have this particular condition. How many times have we walked into a room with more than 26 people, right? And that's one condition. Now let's add other mental health challenges to this. And what are the chances that somebody is going through something challenging that we don't know about? And so it's allowing the grace, like I had to give myself grace to get through this process, and I'm still going through this process. And this experience has allowed me to give other people that grace without asking questions and without digging into their personal life and not having them share what they're going through. It's allowed me to kind of step back and be like, gosh, I don't know what they're going through. I will never know what they're going through, and that's okay. But maybe there is something, and maybe I don't have to be so rigid in certain things and expectations from people. And it's lowered that. It's lowered my expectations.
Dr. Shah's story is a powerful example of resilience, self-advocacy, and hope. By sharing her experience, she challenges the stigma around epilepsy and encourages others to speak up, seek help, and find the care they need. If you or someone you know is navigating epilepsy, remember, you're not alone. Access to accurate information and support can make a world of difference. If you like this story, please like and share and leave a comment to show your support.